You're listening to the Journey Podcast. What if understanding your unique human design could unlock the secrets to living a more aligned and fulfilling life? Find out more in today's episode. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Journey Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. In this episode, we delve into the fascinating world of human design and its profound implications for enhancing mental health and overall well-being. We explore the unique blueprint that human design provides for understanding our individuality, including our personality traits, strengths, and potential areas for growth. Through insightful discussions and practical insights, we uncover how aligning with our human design can empower us to make conscious choices that support our mental, emotional, and physical health. Meet Ali Houston, a dynamic human design lifestyle coach. After dedicating 15 years to the corporate world, Ali transitioned to her true passion, guiding women to build lives that resonate with their authentic selves. As a human design lifestyle coach, she brings a holistic approach to the table, encouraging women to recover effectively after periods of intense productivity and embracing the beauty of a life in flow with their unique design. Ali is passionate about supporting women on their journey to discovering their desires, aligning with their purpose, and cultivating a lifestyle that flows effortlessly. Ali empowers women by aligning their personal objectives with overall well-being, creating spaces where they can embrace fun, self-expression, and tap into their unique flow state. Ali shares insights on optimizing productivity, enhancing creativity, and fostering overall wellness, all while emphasizing the transformative power of living in harmony with one's human design. Here is my interview with Ali Houston. Hi, Ali. It's so great to have you on the podcast. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because human design is such a fascinating topic for today's episode. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Petra. I'm so excited to be here. When I saw the call to action, I responded an absolutely yes to this. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And what an exciting topic. I don't think we've talked about this before on the podcast. So I'm excited to learn more. I'm excited for you to share about this. So let's dive in. And do you want to share a little bit about yourself and your story, who you are, and how you came to do what you do today?
I, once upon a time, was in corporate Canada and just in various different roles and jobs, and found myself really looking for that fulfillment. What is happiness? I even did a research paper in university, and I just felt so unhappy, just lost and confused, and then got into this personal growth appetite about 5 years ago and been on a mission ever since to see how can I have more fulfillment. And for myself, that has been getting into a flow state. That's where I started getting into my coaching journey, learning the science and neuroscience behind flow, not necessarily human design, though it was a huge stepping stone because over COVID, instead of keeping with my job, being miserable, not sure what to do, I totally took everything that I've learned and started to train to become a coach so I could leave my full-time corporate job to be a full-time coach and help people get more into flow in their lives. While practicing and playing with it, I had a friend introduce me randomly to human design. So excited. And I've always been someone that gets every personality type, quiz, testing into what's my horoscope or astrology, like playing with different things. So when human design came into my life, I was all on board, got my first reading, and I was in shock. It was a gentleman that was out east in San Diego, and he explained my energy and who I was like no one or any personality quiz has ever done in my life. I felt seen, I felt heard, and it felt like I was coming home to me, and that there was a way forward in such a different way that was quite opposite to how I was raised or conditioned or programmed, however you want to put it. Not that it was right or wrong. Parents and I think people in our society do the best that we can. And that's what I loved about human design, because it is so unique and individual, because it does take your birthday, the moment in time, give you your own energetic blueprint. So that's why your date of your birthday is really important. And you get to see a beautiful map of your energy and get to start understanding major aspects of it and how you can actually use it in life to start understanding yourself more, making decisions very easily, and honing into like your innate energy and your gifts and your strengths, and also see in areas that you might be vulnerable. After I had that reading, it was for me, I'm a one line, that's an investigator. And I went wild with research and books and anything and everything I could get my hands on, so that when I was working with clients to get them into flow, when they were having these like resistant and why isn't this working? And I've been doing this, I would ask, like, would you want to maybe let's check out your human design, see what it is? And there was always these few glaring points that I could see, oh, I can see the conundrum. Or have you thought of it this way? And each person that I worked with, again, had that same, like, oh my goodness, I feel seen. No wonder why. I'm not crazy. That's how I've always wanted to be. And it's worked out so well for myself as a coach to have this beautiful tool to read someone's energy and guide them in a way that's more tailored to them and their energy, their personality, how they might operate. And then they can play with it and get into that flow state. So who I am, I'm a coach. I'm going back into some corporate position, again, responding to life. As we talk more about human design, you'll see why I'm really emphasizing I'm responding to life and how things are moving and shaking. And it's trusting that my body and who I am knows something greater than my overthinking, analyzing, perfectionist force could ever take on.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. And I love that journey and what you have found and discovered. And I speak to a lot of people through the podcast as well. And what you mentioned is something that I'm hearing more and more, is that individuals come to a point where they feel lost and disconnected and just not in flow. And they're looking for what could be wrong, what could be going on, and how they can fix that, because it's not a really great feeling to be in that state. I'm almost kind of thinking that human design sounds like an amazing tool, actually, for aligning, realigning, and even helping yourself mentally, physically come into a much better space. So what an exciting tool and what an exciting discovery. For those listeners who are not familiar with human design, now you mentioned we need a birth date, our birth date. What exactly is human design and how do we start? So we give you the birth date and then what happens? Do you want to maybe unpack that a little bit so we can explain to people what they would be expecting if they were to work with you on that?
Yeah, so how I work at first, again, your birthday is really important and the time that you're born. Sometimes I do run into people that haven't, or they don't have that access to the information. So there is ways around it. Oh, let's pretend in this case you have it. There's various different ways, and we can send a link here where you can look up your own chart to see the things that we're talking about. So I'll look up your chart and start just dissecting the main areas. So I say tap into your human design. First is type. That's a main energy that you have in your chart. Your authority is how you make decisions. And P for profile. That's how you interact, how you learn with the world. Once you have your chart, you're going to see those 3 bits of information, as well as a whole body graph is what they call it. It'll look like different chakras attached to each other in different ways, and numbers everywhere in signs of the astrology, because when this chart was created, it was downloaded to take astrology, the Kabbalah, I Ching, quantum physics, take all of these really great areas that people have studied and put them together in one way of which you can understand in a numerology way to say, hey, this is how your energy is from the moment that you're born. And that's why it's important to have that time, because as you shift it, let's say from this morning to later on tonight, all of the planets are moving slightly, which can change the energy in the chart. And yeah, so you'll get that chart. And from there, you can start learning and going in any direction that you want. Again, from my own experience and the way that I operate, it can be really overwhelming. So that's where myself or other practitioners of human design come into place, because we've done the research, we understand how it operates and moves, and we can give readings and start working with you to understand your individual chart. So instead of getting overwhelmed, because it's going to be really exciting, I hope you go and check out your chart and start seeing it, or see what fits and maybe what doesn't seem right at the moment. But you can get to understand, I would say, tap into your human design. Start small, start playing with some of those energies and see how you can start feeling different. So if you are feeling stuck or unsure and unfulfilled, maybe even looking at your authority. And for myself, I'm a manifestor generator. It's half manifestor wanting to initiate and half the generator waiting to respond. The generator portion is going to take over my chart because I have such energy to, like, I like to call it play and get paid in my life. I have a sustainable, great energy. I'm here to do multi-creative things. And the way that I make decisions is waiting to respond, which if we look at, I think, how we've been taught to manifest or go after what we want and you have to get it, it's very forceful. It's very making things happen. Whereas in human design, it's waiting to respond. So that's where if I'm like, oh, you know what, I want to be on some podcasts. Here's this opportunity. I waited to respond. It's like, yeah, this is right. Those are the things that I would recommend if you're starting, is get your chart. It's going to be this beautiful blueprint of your energy. Don't let it overwhelm you. Look into those 3 areas, tap into your design and start playing with it.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like such a wonderful approach to start to even get to know yourself. And like you said, your strengths and maybe things that you can work on and how you're moving forward in the world and making decisions so that you can benefit from everything that who you are and make the best out of life for that. That sounds fantastic. Now, you mentioned what you are. Are there many different types or authorities, as you call them, or how many of them are there? And are there some more common ones, some more uncommon ones? Let's talk about that a little bit in case listeners are curious about that. I'm curious to find out more too.
There are 5 different types in human design. And I love this question because, yes, there's different percentages per se of people that are different types. So with the 5 types, there's a manifestor. I like to say that this big, bold, initiating energy, and they are here, their authority, their way that they manifest or the way that they relate to the world is they're going to initiate and form and go after what they want. I would say they're between 8 and 9% of the world. So their energy maybe isn't the broader perspective. However, their energy is so big, it's so beautiful. And any manifestor that I've met just has this commanding aura when they walk into the room. Then we have a generator. Generators are this almost like if you met someone that loves what they do and they have a sustainable force and they're just going along every day. And it's like, how do you have all this energy? Like, you seem to love what you're doing. It's amazing. It's attractive. I would say that they're the generator. They're here to play, get paid, and be that sustainable, fun life force. And they're 35% of the greater perspective. Then we get the manifestor generator, which takes a bit of the manifestor, the initiating, a bit of the generator, and put them together. And it's a multi-creative force. Because of the manifestor initiating form, they'll want to do different things, which is multi-creative. And then the generator part is also they want to get play and get paid as well. And they're going to follow through with some things where the manifestor might not be that person that has the same sustainable energy. And the Mani-Gens have 35% of the world as well. So if we look at already, manifestor generators are the life force. of our world. They are the workers, the players, the sustainable energies, the doers, sometimes people will say. The next one I would say is projector. And I look at these as the wise sages, the guides. The projectors, I know, and this is from my own experience, and not to say that if you are a projector, you're going to be like this. I find them a little bit of a softer energy. Their aura is taking in information. They don't have the same sustainable energy, and they're brilliant in seeing the world in a different light and guiding. And they're about 20-21% of the world, growing in fashion. And again, they are here to take in all this beautiful energy that the others have and see the world in a different light to guide us. Imagine like when you have someone that's giving you that really great advice that you ask for, you're like, wow, I never saw it that way. That's their energy. And last and not least is our beautiful reflectors, making 1% of the world. And I personally have met just online, but not that I know of in person. And the reflectors are so beautiful because their chart, when you look at the chart and you download it, it'll have white areas as well as colored chakra areas. With the reflectors, their whole chart is white. And that means that they are open to the energy of everyone around them. And they act as the mirrors of the community. Their energy acts like no other. So if you're a reflector, I think there's a beautiful, beautiful gift in the world for you. And they're 1%, so very limited. So that's a general type. When you look at your type, generally speaking, there's a few different ways. So I think it'd be more complex to get to. So I'll stick with the generator and manifestor generator because it's the biggest energy. Majority of people, I'd imagine, have it. You're waiting to respond. I mentioned a couple of times already, I'm just waiting. I've been practicing. Don't get me wrong. There's times that I'm like forcing, I'm frustrated. And that's how I tell I'm off course, is I feel frustrated, sometimes angry because it's like, why isn't this working? And I step back. I'm like, oh, right. Because I was trying to force all of these opportunities. I wasn't waiting to respond. So I've been practicing waiting and manifesting in that way. And that's when I feel satisfied. I feel at peace. And that's where I feel that flow of fulfillment come through. Now, there's two different types. There's the sacral generator and mani-gen. That's coming from your gut. When people say, no, just trust your gut, that's where it comes from. It's getting out of the busy mind, the overthinking, analyzing, maybe closing your eyes and simply responding yes or no to questions. I recently had a job opportunity come up and they're like, do you want to do this? And to my surprise, I was like, mm-hmm. And I felt my whole body light up. Like this was my next opportunity, something different, that there's something here for me. Same with human design. I had a friend ask me for a year, are you going to start giving human design readings? And for a year, I was like, mm-mm. She's like, you have to share this information. And literally for a year, it just responded. Mm-mm. Until one day she was, I think, giving up hope on me. And she's like, are you going to start giving readings? Because this is information you have to share. Like, you know too much. And I was like, mm-hmm. Now it's the right time. Sometimes when I'm talking with clients or people learning their design, very much you'll see that, yeah, that feels right. And you start practicing building that muscle, that gut response. Because if you've been out of tune of it, think of it like any muscle that you're building at the gym. You can start building it. So that would be a sacral responder. Now, with the other type, it's a bit more emotional, and it comes from your emotional solar plexus having direct access to your sacral or direct access to any other part. So it takes over the chart. So you will still respond similarly. However, you want to find your emotional wave, I call it. So if you have big highs and lows, if you're feeling really great, I recommend say like, oh, give me a day to think about it, because you might want to come down from a really big high and think like, okay, is this really what I want to do? Vice versa. If you're having a really low and you're like, no, not doing anything, you wake up the next morning and you're like, what a missed opportunity. With that emotional solar plexus being active, it's allowing your emotions to kind of ride through and enjoy them, to come from that space of true knowing that what feels right for you. Those are the two types that I'll focus on today. There's others, and you'll discover that. Though for the sake of time and me going off on tangents for hours, I'll focus on those. So that's how, for an example, I would work with a client, start practicing some of the different techniques. to get them understanding their chart, using their chart, and feeling it, most importantly, in their body, how that works.
Yeah. Thank you for explaining those. What a fascinating, fascinating field to dive into. Now, it sounds to me that when you discover certain things about yourself, it can be quite hard to learn to incorporate those things into your life. So, if you've been in corporate, for example, and most of your career you've been taught to hustle, hustle, go get, and then to have to shift and actually sit down and say, okay, I'm going to let go and I'm going to wait to respond to something, that can be quite hard for people. Do you find that when you work with clients that sometimes there's a period where they need time to kind of internalize what they've learned in their chart and time to incorporate who they are to be effective in life?
For sure. And I like to think of it as a practice, like a yoga practice, like practice some like a sport or whatever. This is your own ability to practice your energy. And I recommend starting very small, finding the magic in the everyday or little bits of signs from the universe, whatever you want to call it, and play with it. Don't trust me. Don't just say like what I'm saying is your absolute truth because only you know. And that's what's beautiful about human design. What you know is truth for you. Here's the information and start playing with it. I'll say like, okay, I had a client, he's a manifester, doesn't want to initiate and form. He's waiting. I'm like, come on, you have this big energy. Like play with it. I don't know. Say you want a coffee, put that initiation energy out to the world. He's like, no, I'm going to say I want something free today. End of the day happens. He got invited to go to a concert for free. Again, that's just like a little example. I wouldn't say, okay, wait to respond if you should leave your corporate job and everything and risk your whole life based on your gut response because I told you. So I wouldn't go as far as that. However, it could be that extreme down the road if you're really leaning into your body. So practice and play with it and have fun. Generators and mani-gens are here to be the life force. Your joy time should be priority. And the more fun you're having, the more you're going to stay in tune with what's going on. The trust will build over time if you're willing to play with it or just see how it works out and see when it doesn't work out. Because when we have the feedback of, wow, I really forced that and now I can see, because it's been brought to light, it's contrast. And contrast can bring the biggest clarity as well. Wow, I forced all that and it feels frustrating and I feel angry and it didn't work. And it feels like that motor that is stuck and the gears aren't working. Maybe that is the feedback that will help you see a different side and then you can release it. It's a practice and play and enjoying life in a new way. And I would say start out by the little bits of magic and don't take it so seriously because then I think you can notice it. And it can be really beautiful.
Yeah. And I imagine that this goes far past any kind of what we do with career and finances, but human design applies obviously through all the categories in our lives. So health and relationships, work, finance, but really hobbies, anything that we do. Can human design also affect how our health works mentally, emotionally? Does it help us in those domains as well?
Absolutely. And I think the biggest health that I've found is understanding each chakra specifically and how it operates. So when I think of my mental health, it's huge. This world is wild. And there's different things, technology, everything. Learning that I have an open crown, meaning it's white, it's open, means it's like amplifying thoughts, things around me. And I've always been very creative and so many thoughts. And now I understand. So it helped me, again, understand how I operate and also understand things like when people were like, oh, I love what you said. Can you repeat it? I'm like, no way. It's kind of like this filtered information or why maybe sometimes I'm forgetful in some areas. So for a mental way, when you understand how those areas in your mind, your ajna operate and how you communicate, can be very understanding of, wow, like this is maybe a strategy that I could do. With human design, you can understand your digestion. And not that I'm going to say like, oh, only have this kind of diet. I'll always say refer back to your authority, how you make decisions, and give you guide points of how you can build out your days to eat. So for myself, I'm alternative eating, I don't actually work well on a great schedule. And I'll respond to like, oh, it's 11 o'clock. It's time to eat. And that actually is okay for me because it means that it's time for my body and my energy is ready to take on food. Whereas someone who has, let's say, the consecutive appetite, them for having like a structured morning, breakfast, dinner, they might enjoy eating the same thing every day for months. And that is like what they love. And that really works for their energy because it's allowing them to make decisions in other areas more simply. And that's how it will help fuel their days. So that would be two different, quite different examples. And there's others, as well as like environments. Our environment around us, whether it be physical or work environment, can be challenging sometimes, but there's different environments, meaning how you can maybe set up your home or areas that you could go that might help soothe your energy. And I look at that as the way to find your flow or your downtime for rest and recovery. Rest and recovery for me means very different than someone who's a projector, who's rest and recovery. Rest and recovery, I have so much energy. So when people are telling me to relax, I definitely meditate for its own reasons. But to me, relaxing means like maybe a brisk walk in a forest and getting energy out. Whereas relaxing for someone else that doesn't have the same big energy could be like flat out on the couch, no one around them, and they need to recharge. Understanding how your design flows and different aspects of it. Again, that's, I feel like, a little bit more advanced, though it can be really great tweaks that you can practice and play with, respond to, understand your authority to say, is this right for me? Yes and no. Or if you're splenic, it's very much like these big intuitive hits of a voice of, yeah, this is it, and trusting that. There's so many different things. So absolutely mind, body, spirit, depending on your chart, can be different ways of how you flow with your days. Or start with one, like if you notice like you're running up to this one problem, or you find you're anxious about this one thing all the time. Is there something in your chart? Is there one thing that you could start doing that could shift your energy to set you in this whole new trajectory?
Yeah. Wow. It sounds like a bit of a rabbit hole when you start taking the lid off human design. It sounds like there's so much to it and to know about it. So thank you for sharing sort of the surface level bits with us so that we can get an understanding of what it is and how it works when we start looking into that. Now, you work with clients in a human design capacity and also in coaching. So do you want to go over some of your programs and services so listeners could get an idea of how they could connect with you or how they could work with you?
Definitely. I love doing human design readings. So they're about an hour, 15-ish. And we go through the basics, foundations of your design. And then depending on time and really how the flow of the conversation is, because everyone, I feel like, is looking for something, or it just naturally, the chart will guide us in a way. So I wouldn't say like you will get exactly this because they're so unique and that's the way that I've wanted them. You'll get a 45-page booklet that I make of overviewing some of the things that I've just discovered and more, so that you have that to refer back to. You'll get a recording as well, because I find there's so much information and people enjoy taking it all in. It's also a lot of information, a lot to take in. So you'll have that recording to go back to. And at the end of the session, the coach will look at you and say, what's one thing that really felt aligned? How can we start putting this into action right away so you can start seeing your energy flow in a new way? And then if you want to start integrating more, there's a 4-week flow. We'll take bits of the foundation, and each week we'll start building on your energy and getting a goal in place so that you can start playing with it and get feedback on how things are going. That's what I offer currently. I also do some one-off workshops. If you had a group and you're wanting maybe some girlfriends as like an overview, say like one-on-one readings are really great. Though if you have like a mastermind or a team, it's cool to see how everyone has their own energy, because they do interact very differently. And that's where you can communicate better, build stronger relationships, and understand like, I'm going to operate the way I am and you operate very differently. When you can speak that other person's language, it can be really powerful. So there's that option as well.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually, to kind of, if you're building teams at work, to know how people work best could be really handy for that as well. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And of course, we will be linking to all of Ali's offerings in the show notes as well. So be sure to check there on how you can connect with her. And this has been another incredible episode. And I really hope that our listeners have enjoyed our journey into human design today as much as I have. Again, I have learned so much in today's episode. It has been fantastic chatting with you and you sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us. Thank you so much for coming on, Ali, and spending this time with us today.
Thank you. It's been my absolute pleasure.
Yeah, well, take really great care of yourself, and maybe we'll do another episode where we dig a little bit deeper. I feel like this is a huge topic that we should break down a little bit more. So thank you so very much and take care. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Journey podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Journey on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejourney.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.